Good day there viewers, welcome to my channel called Vintage Time. My name is Cliff and I'm a gem cutter from Southern Australia. A warm welcome to all my regular subscribers and viewers, as today we have a special episode of when I facet one of my designs called the Zulu's Eye. For many of my subscribers and viewers, they know that Jaws, who is a special little friend of mine, is featured in many of my videos. So today I've allowed Jaws to do all the filming and editing and putting in subtitles. So for those people who don't know who Jaws is, let me introduce him to you because he's in total control of what goes on within this film. So here we have Jaws sitting behind the camera, all wide for sound, and he's loaned me his other camera so I could film him, and I've just noticed we're filming in black and white. And also he's decided to make a vintage style video. Jaws, this is absolutely ridiculous. Can we change perspectives? Sorry viewers, I apologise for Jaws' quirky sense of humour. He says he's a dog and he can only see in black and white, and he also happens to be a real fan of the early black and white movies. So now that everything is back to normal and in colour, I'll be faceting a piece of synthetic ruby. So with the magic of video technology, here we have a piece of pre-formed synthetic flame fusion ruby. And for those people who are new to my channel and they don't know what flame fusion synthetic sapphire or ruby is, I'll get Jaws to drop in a photo from a previous video that explains how it's made, and I'll get him to drop in a link in the description so you can look it up. So I'm back indoors now, and the ruby is glued onto what is known as a brass stopstick and is placed into a transfer block, and this is left to set overnight for the glue to dry. So the next step is to facet the gem, but before I do that I'm going to take you through all the steps of my design and show you how it's cut. So let's take you through the process of faceting the pavilion. So I'm using computer software called Gem Cut Studio. So the next step in the process is that the crown will need to be faceted, and this will be extremely tricky and difficult, and as you can see there are a lot of facets on this crown. So one of the things also, the fact that this design has never been tested before, it has to be considered as a test cut, because you really never know what the sequence is and if it's going to work out perfectly, and that's a good reason to be using synthetic gems like synthetic ruby. So here's a computer simulation of what the gem should look like once it's completed. So according to my design, I'm faceting the pavilion first, and normally when you facet the pavilion you start by faceting to a center point, and these are usually called your P1 facets. Sometimes you're faceting to a temporary center point, and sometimes it can be a permanent center point, but in my case I'll be faceting the girdle first. The reason why I'm cutting the girdle first is because for some reason with these particular designs that are based on the Pharaoh's Eye, the old timers used to always cut by floating the facets in by adjusting the height of the mast, and I won't be fully relying on my design because I know that with the girdle outline that these designs are notorious for having a curved girdle, and the whole point of getting a straight girdle is that you need to float that mast. So I'm really just cutting the girdle outline by eye to begin with. So I've done a quick rough out of the girdle outline, and the four corner facets I've cut in by eye because that will be critical to the whole design working out. So in the following scenes I'll be cutting the rest of the pavilion facets and polishing them also. So I've been faceting the crown and it's going okay. There's a few inaccuracy issues, and I kind of always thought there may be, because this is a very difficult design. And with the 4 large facets you can see now on top of the crown, I probably could have cut those in a different sequence within the design and maybe cheated those in better. But anyway, that's faceting for you, and next time I try this design I'll probably change up the sequence. In this scene here I need to cut 4 very tiny little facets, and if I was running the motor I would probably most likely overcut them. So I'm using a very worn 800 grit disc, and I'm just going to graze the surface and then look quickly and then determine how much more I need to run that gem over the surface. So I've wet the actual disc and then I check, and this way I won't overcut. As you can see, the crown is starting to take shape through all the little steps, and with the meet points they will need to be polished in a little bit better later on. While I'm rambling on at this stage, I thought I would mention also that with some of these eye designs, particularly the Fred Van Sant rehash of the Pharaoh's Eye, and there's another one I believe by John Ford called the Egypt Eye, both of these designs will not work out very well, particularly when you get onto the crown facets. You'll find that some of the angles and the sequences aren't quite right, and what will happen, the table will be oversized, particularly on the Egypt Eye, and you're going to have to cheat a lot. And I've run this through Gem Cut Studio and I've actually come up with a similar design, and I'm going to test that out myself because a lot of these designs aren't tested. So if you're a gem cutter, have a go at them because you're going to learn a lot from them, but they just don't work out. What I mean to say by it not working out is that the outcome of the finished gem does not represent what's on the diagram. Quite often there is curvature in the girdle, and more than likely the table facet is way too large and it shouldn't be. So the sign of a great cut would be not having such a large table and be able to keep that girdle outline as straight as possible. So for any faceter that wishes to attempt such designs, you will need to be highly inventive and adaptable as you move through the sequences, and it goes back to what I said earlier on, that you may need to constantly adjust the height of the mast and change the angles as you go along. I'm on the home straight now, so that means you'll see all the sequences of how the crown facets have been polished. I have to say that with this particular design that I came up with, I would say it's been the most difficult gem I've cut in the last 12 months. So the pavilion wasn't too difficult to facet, but like any gem you facet, it's the accuracy of the pavilion and the girdle that determines the accuracy of the crown. So the accuracy of the crown was compromised earlier on, in my opinion, when I faceted the girdle, and there are 4 corner girdle facets that need to be perfect, and they're actually smaller than the facets next to it, and you need to get that perfectly aligned, else you'll end up with curvature in the girdle, which is one of the major sticking points with the Eye of the Pharaoh type of designs, trying to get that girdle straight. And of course, with the sequencing on the crown, I thought that could have been better, so that led to another compromise, and so it starts to build up as you go through all the tiers of the crown and finally onto the table. So talking about the table, I'm polishing it right now, which means we're getting closer to the end of another video. I know the start of the video was a little bit quirky and unusual, but we like to have a lot of fun here at Vintage Time YouTube channel, and I'd like to thank Jaws for his input with all the filming and editing and sound. You've done a great job, Jaws. And also I'd like to thank all my subscribers and viewers. I like hearing from you in the comments, so please leave comments, and don't forget about the final reveal coming up. So it's bye for me, take care everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.